I have a secret to confess to you, my viewers of the channel, and it might be surprising on how normal all of my content has been, but this is the honest to God truth. I like anime. I know it's a secret that I've kept for you for years, and if you feel like unsubscribing, I totally get it. As the last couple of summer weeks have gone by, as I sit in my room being unproductive, when I could be writing scripts, or streaming, or editing, or maybe applying for scholarships, I've been consuming content. But most of the content I have watched this summer, besides all the Nuzlocke content, is anime. 3 of them to be specific. Spy X Family, Dan to Dan, and Death Note. One of these things is not like the other, and I'll let you take a guess on which one. To look at the present, I feel like I need to look at my past with the experience of animes. Growing up, I loved 3 things in this world. My Nintendo Wii, my Aqua Edition Spider-Man toy, and the show I grew up on, Sonic X. Now, there is a lot I could say about Sonic X, and a lot I couldn't say. When Sonic first went supersonic against Chaos, I started crying, and I rushed down the stairs to tell my mom that it was absolute cinema, and it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. The couldn't part is the fact that I don't remember a thing about the show. I remember Chris, Professor Oak, this annoying bomb guy, and I think that's it. And speaking of Professor Oak, the other anime I watched was Pokemon, and to be specific, Pokemon Black and White. And from what I remember, Black and White was okay. I have fond memories of it growing up because it was my first experience with the Pokemon anime. It's pretty funny because most of the fans complain about the show and how it dumbs down Ash and he just goes his mind erased. But for me who didn't know what was going on, him being dumbed down helped me out a lot with understanding Pokemon. I mostly remember from Black and White is that Crocodile is the coolest thing, and the first intro was weird and it was uncanny because there was like all these weird Pokemon 3D models. But when I got to X and Y, and saying this was not the peak of my childhood would be an understatement. I love Pokemon X and Y. The characters are great. The Pokemon Ash catches are iconic and awesome. Do you know how mad 10-year-old me was when Ash Greninja lost the finale? I was fuming, bro. This is a perfect Pokemon series to me. To be fair, I haven't seen any of the others, but from what I've gathered online, I'm not the only one who shares this take, and a lot of people seem to agree that this was peak. I know I said I was mad when Ash lost to Lon in that final duel, but I think I was most mad when someone at Game Freak decided they should replace my goated Ash design with this. I hated this look in Ultra Sun and Moon, and it has grown on me a bit, but I still didn't like it, and I've never finished Sun and Moon. I don't know what's up with Pokemon, but whenever I walk into a room and they see what I'm watching, that shit gives me secondhand embarrassment. I was watching in my garage and my mom walks out, and it's a scene with Rowlet versus Venusaur fighting each other. And you know how the Pokemon are just doing their things, shouting their names out, and Venusaur says, "Venusaur!" And my mom looks over at me with a confused face, and she asks, "Did he just say Venusaur?" I've been meaning to get into the newest Pokemon anime, but at the same time, I'm just kind of also waiting for it to be done. I don't want to start a great show and then get cucked on a cliffhanger, and then have to wait another year for the story to be continued. It happened with Invincible, and now I just go into cardiac arrest whenever there isn't a new episode to watch, and my anime watching went cold for a solid couple of years. I moved from 2 houses before I dared to watch another anime. Well, I guess that's not true fully. During this time, I did read my first manga, and it would surprise you if it was Pokemon. That's right. When I was a young boy, I decided to cash in on some manga. And to this day, I don't regret the 3 series I bought. The 3 series I bought were Pokemon Adventures, the first big manga collection, Pokemon Adventures Johto collection, and the Zelda manga collection. Pokemon's Adventures is hype. My favorite character was Red, and to this day is still one of my absolute favorite stories with anything related to Pokemon. Lance kills an entire town with a Dragonite, and the Zelda mangas are also really good. I love all of them. I like how they represent Link in them. The Majora's Mask book is my favorite because Fierce Deity Link on those panels is probably the most aura thing I have ever seen in my entire life. Like, look at him go! Okay, so back to anime. It was a big drought for a couple of years until I reached my 8th grade year. 8th grade was an awful experience. I made a lot of friends there, but by the time I graduated high school, I only really kept one of those friends, while the other friends are off doing drugs and being unemployed. Oh, and Taven was there. I think I should count Taven, so I kept 2 friends. But the important thing was that one of my friends told me to try and watch My Hero Academia.
What? No, alright. I know that sounds bad.
Now, I know when it comes to stereotypes of fandoms, from what I can tell is that the My Hero Academia fandom is cringe, and you should never watch the show because you'll become that cringe. And after much reflection and going back and forth of what this show actually meant to me, I've come to a conclusion.
I liked it.
I like Deku as the main protagonist, even if he does cry so much to the point where it gets annoying. I think there are way too many flashbacks. Bakugo is an asshole and I'll never understand why people like him. He told Deku to kill himself, yet teenage girls draw them shipping them together. I don't remember the intro that much, but from what I remember, the score is still fire, and by that I mean, You Say Run has been on my playlist for the last 4 years and it's gonna continue to stay there. But this show was eye-opening. Watching Deku struggle at the beginning in a time of my life where I was struggling with kids bullying me at school or always trying to fight me, Deku and All Might were inspirations to me to always push to greater heights in my physical abilities. But I also do get third-hand embarrassment whenever I tell someone I like the show because of those scenes. I'm just gonna come out the gate. I don't care for fan service. And if you think that's an awful take, then respectfully, stop watching this video, unsubscribe, and dislike this video. I don't want you here. I just want to watch a cool show about heroes fighting and not have to worry about my parents coming in at the wrong time. Fuck Vendetta, you purple grape hair son of a bitch, I hope you die. Now, for the rest of middle school, I was in my hero phase, but then I started looking at Smash Brothers. See, I was doing this challenge where I had to play the first game the character of the roster appeared in. So for Mario, I would have to beat the original Mario. For Donkey Kong, I had to beat the original Donkey Kong. I never ended up finishing the gauntlet. I'm saving that video idea for a rainy day. But when I was looking at the list, I got to Joker and thought he looked cool. Now at the time, I was seriously considering buying it and playing it on my PS4, but luckily one of my uncles, Uncle Chris, has this deal where once a year he gets free games and passes them off to me and my brother. If he already A, has them, or B, it's RPG he doesn't think he'll like. And one of the games he gifted me that year was Persona 5 Royal.
Persona! It's showtime!
And let me just say, I love this game. It is, if not, one of my favorite video games of all time that I have ever played. The soundtrack, the visuals, the characters, the combat, the soundtrack. Did I mention how good the soundtrack was? The first time taking on Kamoshida was an experience I'll never forget. One of anger and satisfaction when I finally beat him up before the time was up. I had so much fun, and granted on my first playthrough, I didn't even do most of the content. The only social link I maxed out was Ryuji. I mostly just ended up doing push-ups in my room the entire time. I didn't even do the Royal exclusive dungeon in my first playthrough. I was just odd at every turn. To say that Persona changed my life would be an understatement. I feel like I could go on and rambling for 5 hours, so if you want to see me do a 5-hour analysis, hit that subscriber button. If we hit 2,000 subscribers before the end of the year, I'll do it. I was and still am a dedicated Persona 5 fan. I played Strikers and Tacticia, not because I really know how to click with the gameplay. I did for Strikers, but not as much for Tacticia. But because I cared about the characters and wanted to see what they would do in future scenarios. Except Haru. I know nothing about Haru. She got shafted in literally every playthrough I did. Just her stat spread was kind of mid, and I mean, honestly, I didn't even really like her character that much. What are you saying about Haru, motherfucker? She's the best girl, and everybody goddamn knows it.
What are you doing in my room? You need to leave.
No, I don't think I am. No, this is what you get for shit talking best girl Haru. Flash forward to junior year, and I kept getting this Dragon Ball thing recommended on my page. Now, I am a man of culture. I knew that the Super Saiyan was a thing. I knew it made your hair golden, but not the significance behind it or the fact that only a Saiyan could do it. Now, you'll see this when I bring up Death Note, where just over time I get pushed on more online with the concept, and then one day I'll just say, screw it and watch it. So I started watching the show, but for me, I wanted to start where the series actually starts, with OG Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball is one of my favorite shows I have ever seen. The music is great and the characters are amazing. I love the cast of this show so much, and it just shows how great of a writer Akira Toriyama was. I went into Dragon Ball expecting it to be full of screaming and action, but what I found was a story full of wonder and mystery. The soundtrack is instantly iconic. I love Stephanie as Goku's voice, and it is my favorite rendition of Goku and how he acts when he is a child. It took me a whole year to finish Dragon Ball, and I got started on Kai.
What? No,
I was told to watch Kai because the dubbing is better.
Well, aren't you gonna keep running, monkey? Aren't you? Like a little circus chimp. Come one, come all. See the spectacular chimp in a maze. Where will he...
However, the price I paid was not having actual banger themes besides the opening. Why would you do this, Toei? Why can't I listen to Cell's theme or Super Saiyan 3 bangers, and I have to listen to the same 5 songs over and over again? Kai took me about a year to get through, and my favorite arc was the Cell Saga. I liked the ending with Gohan and the Beam Clash with all the Z Fighters helping out. Made me shed a tear. That was some peak cinema. I didn't even mention it, but this show is also life-changing. It helped me become a better runner, and most of my training ideals come from early Dragon Ball. Work hard, study well, eat and sleep plenty. Now we are approaching the summer months. I tried watching Dragon Ball GT, but got bored really quickly. Pan, please shut the fuck up. I hate you. I made a video called Babysitting in Sparking Zero. It's pretty much just playing Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, and my friends are in a call voicing the characters, and my friend Taven played Pan, and I told him to be as annoying as possible, and I find it funny that him purposely trying to be annoying is still not even 50% of how annoying Pan is in the actual show. I will finish GT one day, but just not now. For the summer months, I was just scrolling through my legally obtained Crunchyroll website, and I saw a show that catched my eye out of all of them. I heard good stuff about the show, but I don't remember where, and I figured it was worth a shot. Of course, we're talking about Spy X Family. And my thoughts on it? Spy X Family is a pretty good show. My favorite character is the Elegance guy. I like yours. It's definitely not a life-changing show, but it doesn't have to be that. A show can just be a show. Not everything needs to change my perspective on life. The animation is fire. The movie was good. The comedy is pretty hit or miss, but the funny stuff is probably some of the funniest things I've ever seen in my entire life. A couple of weeks later, I was scrolling on Instagram and I saw one of those Death Note memes where light was killing everything in society and it becomes perfect, and that was my fuck it, I'm watching this show. This show was an absolute masterpiece! I know most people don't like the ending or the final arc, and I kind of agree with you. It's just okay. It's not as good as the last portion of the show, but the ending, man, that ending was amazing. It was kind of one of those endings where you're just sitting there afterwards and you're like, damn! It's just overthinking the show, but overthinking is actually the correct thing to do here. L is probably one of my favorite characters I've talked about in this video. I think he's pretty funny. I also love how unapologetically goofy the show is. And it's the type of goofy where to the characters in the show, it's not meant to be goofy. Like the scene with Mikami where he's just yelling delete over and over and over again and as he's writing names on the book. I also just like how it was one of those shows where everyone else has a different take on it. Like, I've seen people online say that Light was a hero, and I just have to ask, my brother in Christ, did you watch the show? Now, with statistics, I could see you bringing up good reasoning for Light being a hero and helping people out, but that's another moral debate of if murder is justifiable to help save the world. But at the same time, all of that immediately goes out the window when Light tried to kill people who were trying to take him down. And also, plus it goes out the window when he himself says he's doing this out of boredom. Also, Death Note was an absolute banger of themes. All of the themes were fire from it. It is definitely by far one of the best soundtracks on this video that I have talked about. And now we get to the last show, which basically inspired me to make this video, Dandadan. Now, I had heard really good things about Dandadan going into it, and afterwards, Dandadan is one of the best shows I have ever seen. The animation is so good, and it is up there with Spy X Family for being one of the best animated pieces I have ever seen. The voice acting is really good, and all of the main characters are really good. Except for this guy. The fight scenes are so clever and brilliant, and the story is... Isn't this story for gooners? What? Well, it sexualizes minors and has them in suggestive content. Well, yeah, but it's not like they sexualize them. It's based off of Japanese myths, which, if you read myths are very Wow, you're defending the sexualization of minors, you freaking pedophile? See, this is why I never got into anime. It's so weird and it's for freaking gooners. Dude, no it's not. They're sexualized in a negative way. It's not like I enjoy the scene where Momo is about to get raped by aliens. Oh wow, there's weird aliens, freak? See, it's like one of those weird hentai things. See, this is why anime is so cringe and lame, because of freaking weird stuff like like this. Stop!
Before we go any further with the video, I'm going to say that I am not in any way, shape, or form defending fan service from all of the animes that I have mentioned above or any other animes that do exist out there. I am simply just going to talk about the double standards that anime faces towards the industry. Also, before we begin, I would like to point out that there is two key differences between what I am talking about with Dan and other animes. Shows like Persona, Dragon Ball, and My Hero Academia uses fan service as, well, look at this, it's funny, it's boobs, who doesn't like boobs? It's used as comedy, it's used as a way of getting the viewers and the shippers to have more attention into the show. Dan is completely different from this. Dan, when it uses these devices with the aliens, is not meant to be a, wow, look at this person's naked, isn't that cool? It's meant to be one of horror and terror, of, oh my god, what is going to happen to this girl? Is she going to be okay? And I bring this up with Dan because for the first time in a long time, it was genuinely one of the best shows I have seen. And I know I say that for almost every single cartoon or anime I've talked about during this video, but that's because anime is a great and amazing medium. It has so many different tales of adventure, of mystery behind all of it. Now let's move on to what I'm really here to talk about. How anime is for gooners and for weirdos and for freaks, and personally, I just disagree. Is there weird stuff in anime? Yes. But so is there in every other show. One of the most popular shows in the world right now is The Boys. But The Boys has unnecessary and inappropriate scenes. But yet it's seen as mainstream or mainline. There are scenes where characters are just being sexually harassed for no reason. There's an entire side plot where Huey has to go get information for pretty much the Diddy of the Boys universe, and while doing it, he has to do some fetishy acts. It's absolutely disgusting. And one thing that could be brought up against it is, well, Huey's an adult man, which that's a cheap excuse, but that's a valid one, I guess. Well, other adult shows such as Rick and Morty or Family Guy also has sexualization of minors. There's an episode where Morty, 16-year-old Rick and Morty, he mentions fucking someone. He mentions having sex. There's an episode of Family Guy where Chris Griffin gets rammed by Herbert the Pervert. There's a comic book from Rick and Morty where Summer Smith has sex with a car. And keep in mind, Summer Smith is underage. But instead of being seen as these shows are for weirdos and gooners, it's being seen as mainstream and it's so funny. Pickle Rick is the funniest thing I've ever seen. And I don't necessarily agree with that. Why is it this way that when a Japanese company produces something like this, then everyone says it's weird and it's for freaks and it's for gooners? But when Rick and Morty does it, it's seen as peak fiction. It doesn't make sense to me. And I understand that right now, anime is in the best place that it ever has been, and it's growing towards it. But I feel like if I was talking about my history with anime, and I didn't bring up what I thought about the censorships and all of these fan service things, I just wouldn't do justice to it. Anime has some of the best shows that I've ever seen in my entire life. They have wonderful characters, they have stunning visuals, they have amazing openings. Every show I talked about in this video, I said that every song was a banger. Everything was a banger, and that's because it is. They have some of the best soundtracks I've ever heard in my entire life. Most shows can only dream of having something that iconic. It just doesn't make sense to me. Maybe it's just because it used to be like that, and there are shows like that. I mean, there's my shows. I mean, one of the shows that just ended that I know about is Rent a Girlfriend, and the show was ended. I could see why that could be seen for gooners. But there's also Naked and Afraid, Love Island. I remember I was looking over the names because I thought it was stupid, and one of them was called The Accidental Erection. And this is American TV. We do the exact same thing, if not worse. The Boys is a great example of it. But the reason why we don't talk about this in a negative light is because we don't realize it. It's because we're from here. And I know I'm derailing this, and I know I'm kind of going off on this, but it just feels like we're calling anime for gooners and weirdos because it's not from the US. When we ourselves do the same exact thing, if not but worse.
Now I know this kind of derailed the whole video, but the reason why I bring this up is because I almost didn't even get into anime. I almost didn't even start watching Dragon Ball. I almost didn't even start getting into Persona because of all of these stereotypes, and the stereotypes are right, but they're also so wrong. Persona is way more than just its fan service. Dragon Ball is just way more than Roshi doing something to a girl. That's my history with anime. Now before this video ends, I got some of my friends who also like anime to go over their experiences with the medium. So, let's take a view at what they have to say.
So I was asked to talk about why I like anime and what animes I like and which one's my favorite. We'll get to my favorite in a second, but we should probably start with what I started with in anime. I didn't start, I guess traditionally, I started with Sword Art Online, but I started halfway through the series because my brother was watching it, so I just watched it with him. And as the years went by, I rewatched all of Sword Art Online, and then after a while I watched the spin-off version, which is Gun Gale Online, or the Gun Game Online, whatever you want to call it, and I really enjoyed those two animes, and I've seen a lot of different ones, but those two are kind of in the top favorites and what got me started. Then I started watching One Piece, and a lot of people say, "Oh, you can't watch One Piece, it's too long, the episodes take too long." You don't watch an anime for how long it takes. You watch an anime for the storyline. If you watch the Netflix live action, you don't get the storyline. You just get the... Watch One Piece, not for just the story and the people and the characters, but because of the art and the animation and the style that it is in. So I really enjoy that one, and that's why I got into watching anime, and I've stuck with it. So yeah.
What has gotten me into anime recently is not really a particular show or anything like that, but manga. I decided to pick up Vinland Saga because I wanted to read it, and I didn't put it down and burn through basically the entire series. And I currently have all the deluxe ones in my collection. It really made me want to watch the show, and it's probably one of the greatest interpretation of like a book or comic I've ever seen. Along with this, I watched some of the other super critically acclaimed animes of modern times, like Attack on Titan or Chainsaw Man or Jujutsu Kaisen. What sets apart these shows is a great plot to balance all the like crazy fights. And honestly, the plots in some shows like Attack on Titan could stand toe-to-toe with some of the greatest shows ever made. And on top of that, all these shows have insanely well-made animation. So I think anime's ability to balance these super cool fights and powers and all this like fantastical things with a super great plot that can't stand toe-to-toe with other shows is its greatest strength, and why I love anime so much now.
Hey, I was told to do some video thing, but basically, I've been watching anime since I was little. I started with the Death Note, which honestly is one of my favorite animes. It's really good. I've also watched Full Metal Alchemist, reincarnated as a slime, and all that, and honestly, it was a good way to connect with people, just meet and chat, and shit like that. And just, yeah, I know I met some good friends with it, met some strong bonds. Honestly, kind of got me into more mythology things. It got me into looking deeper into Japanese mythology.
I would say it started when I was around 4 years old. My uncle bought the DVD set for Dragon Ball Z for season 1. Looking back, I think it was just for him, but I ended up watching it and pretty sure I liked it. I would watch those a few more times throughout my childhood. I never got past season 1 because I didn't have the DVDs for it and it wasn't on Netflix. And I never thought much of it. I just knew who Goku was, and to be honest, until I rewatched it years later, I didn't remember the plot. It didn't stick with me that much. I would get through it all in a day. My next moment with anime would be watching Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! As a kid. Got heavy into those games and all that stuff, and the shows. Had a lot of fun with that. And right before I started high school, I watched Del Toro Quest, which is a really good show. And then after that, I watched The Prince of Tennis. and that show that actually got me into tennis as a kid. But then going into high school, those were the only animes I'd ever seen in my life. And there's of course that big stipulation that, oh, you watch anime, you're a nerd, you are a geek, a dork, a dweeb, like, what a weirdo, right? So I was like, oh, I don't like anime. I've seen a few, sure, but it's not like I'm an anime fan or anything. So that was that. I would purposefully avoid watching animes, even if it looked good on scrolling through Hulu or whatever. But then, a couple years later, I was even adamantly against anime. I'd bully my friend Connor for watching Dragon Ball Z, and he finally convinced me to just give it a shot. And I watched the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, and I was like, holy shit, this is epic. And then he gave me the Battle of the Gods and the Resurrection F movie, and then I watched those two. And I was like, okay, I actually like this a lot. So then I started watching Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball Super, Dragon Ball Z Abridged. At this point, I didn't consider myself an anime fan, just a Dragon Ball Z fan. But then I was like, okay, I do know other anime is good because I've seen clips of it on YouTube, and obviously people wouldn't all like it if it was all shit. Obviously some of it's got to be like Dragon Ball Z or whatever. So then I started looking around. I didn't want to watch one that had horrible voice acting, so I watched Castlevania on Netflix because I grew up on the games. I played Symphony of the Night and I played Lords of Shadow 1 and 2. Phenomenal games, and I love Castlevania. It was awesome. As of now, those are the only anime I've watched all the way through. I like them all. I'm currently watching Attack on Titan. I'm on episode 11. And it's ass. Do not recommend watching that. It's so bad. Not that the plot or anything, it's just a voice acting. They will shout to make their point, and then the pauses in between them talking just doesn't feel long enough at all. I just don't like anime, or that anime, at least the voice acting. I'm still watching it because I want to give it a shot. I'll at least watch all of season 1, and I've watched the first 2 episodes of Jujutsu Kaisen. I think I don't hate it. I actually quite like it. I just haven't gotten around to finishing that one. But that's my little blurb history with anime.
Thank you to all of the people who submitted their clips to the videos and talked about their experiences with anime. A part of the reason why this video took me so long to do was I was waiting for Zayden and Taven's clip, and I started watching Persona 4 the anime, and I got hooked on it, and I just finished it 10 minutes ago, and oh my god, I have not felt this way watching a show in a while. It was so good. I cried so many times, or I had to fight so many tears. It was actually, if I had to say one of my favorite animes, top 3, it's probably Persona 4, just because the ending. All of these other animes have been good, but I don't think they've had a concrete ending that I've been happy with or satisfied with besides Persona 4. That's because most of them are ongoing, but Jesus Christ. Oh my god, dude. I can't express. It's such a weird feeling that it made me feel something, alright? But if you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one.
Hey fellas, knock off all that high society crap and play some of this.